Happy Friday, y'all. Happy April. Happy April. Happy new moon in Aries. We're going to wait for Eliott to come on in. Oh, hey, Alfie. How you doing? Here goes Eliott. Let's see if he comes in. There we go. Hello, Eliott. Dog, you backlit again?
Oh, all right, hold on. I can't help it. I got the breeze.
It's okay. It's okay. I will be sufficed with it. I'm not gonna get on you completely. That's the photographer in me. I'm like, you backlit. We have to see your beautiful face.
See if this works a little better. Yeah, pretty good, right? A little better.
I love seeing the ocean. I just like, when the light comes in and then it like drowns your beautiful face out.
Oh, thank you. Well, here, maybe we'll, right? We're just going to improvise here.
Yes.
Going with that Aries go-getter attitude. Oh, this looks nice. There we go, right? I got some modern art in the background. Okay.
Yes. How you feeling?
Oh, I feel good. Real happy to be here. Been a week.
Aries season has started off with a boom.
Whew. Yeah, I feel like today is like the first day where it hasn't felt just like super charged up and like red.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like this new moon is coming with a lot of transformation, new beginnings and blessings, but I think a lot of old lessons came up towards the beginning. So I feel like now we're kind of on the down. We're going uphill on the incline. Yeah. And now we're going to start going down on the decline. So
it's funny. I was getting a lot of like codependency messages this week. Mm-hmm. I think again, very Aries vibe is like, where am I in relation to the world, mm-hmm. right? As opposed to like, where is us? It's like, where am I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree completely. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to reintroduce you because we took a little break. You guys can take a lesson in self-care. We had started off really strong with our 5 Fridays of Fire. We both were doing some traveling. We had a lot of things coming up, and in I think great collaborative fashion, we're completely honest with each other. We're like, let's take a pause in the middle. We're not falling off. We know when to rest, not when to quit. And we came back refreshed. I went to San Diego. You're still in Miami. So I feel like, for those people out there, because that's a huge message coming in with especially people who have a lot of, what was the word someone used the other day? I loved it. Like community currency, like you add a lot to your community and to the collective energy. This moon is a great moon to like take a break. I asked Spirit, like, do you want me to do a new moon workshop? And they're like, no, we want you to sit down. So this is the closest thing that I'm going to be doing to, community work this weekend. So I'm glad we're refreshed and back. So me and Eliott decided that we were going to do a series of lives, 5 Fridays of Fire. And so our first, you could go back to the series In My Lives. The first one was mommy and daddy issues. The second one was how to kill your inner people pleaser. The third one was, what was the third one, dog?
Fake ass healing.
How can I forget it? Because I was on fire with that fake ass healing. And now we are going to be talking about envy and the algorithm. And for those of you not familiar with Eliott, he is a coach as well, and he is in men's work. And we've decided to do this collaboration to bring some good divine masc and divine femme energy into collaboration, just to have some real conversations about some important topics. And I think this one today is really, really important, especially for people who are using Instagram or using social media to also kind of help with their future and their mission and their purpose and what they're doing, but also just for anyone in general who, with social media, we have been granted the ultimate the ultimate, my tongue don't work sometimes, the ultimate voyeurism. You know, like
Mhm.
Instagram and social media is kind of a kinky thing. Like, you know, back in the day, like the only type of peep show that we were really granted was like the one you had to literally like leave your house and go and like move yourself to do. But now we've been granted kind of like this ultimate voyeurism experience by any time that we can pick up our phone, we are peeping into the lives of other people, or the peep show that they have chose to present, because
Ooh.
much like peep shows, they can be raw, authentic, vulnerable, very naked. It could be someone's truth, but it could also be the ultimate fantasy or the ultimate illusion that someone creates in order to give people maybe a view to the inside of their heart or their mind or what they ultimately desire. And we're going to get more into this, but like we're going to get into glamour magic, because that's something that social media has really made really popular, and people might not understand what that means. So I have
Mm.
a bunch of notes, but I kind of want to hand the mic over to you and kind of ask you, where do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, thank you, T. So, I was taking some time before this to kind of prepare. I was making a juice for myself. So, for anyone who juices, it's a lot of work. You got to cut, wash, put it, so there's a lot of time to think. And the question that came up, Spirit wanted me to ask in this space is envy misalignment? And I was really thinking about this because when I think about what triggers me in the algorithm, right? When I see someone who's getting it, right? Someone who has something that I quote unquote don't have, right? I wonder, is this coming from a place of me that is in line with my mission? Is this coming from a place of me that's in line with me seeing myself? Is this me improvising with the world and letting things just get jazzy and loose? Or is this me coming from a wounded, needy place, right? That's like, oh, well, if only I had that, then I would be okay. And so I just felt there's a lot of content in here. That was just my interpretation, but I thought it'd be good to throw it into the cauldron. Is envy misalignment, right? And then kind of as a sub part of that, like how can we use that to our advantage? I think in this conversation, right, it's like people like us, we're never about eradication. You know what I mean? We're not trying to say, don't ever be envious, right? I think it's more like what we're doing in this space together is how do we get more discerning when it inevitably comes up? Mm-hmm. So when the peep show starts to arouse you, maybe disgust you, maybe just like pull up some fault lines, it's like, again, I just saw it as there's something going on with like alignment and envy. So absolutely. I'm going to kick it over to you and see what you think.
Absolutely. And I love that because that's like directly in alignment with my first notes that I wrote down. So I think that's a great way to put it, because yes, I do agree it can be misalignment. One of the things that I wrote down firstly was sometimes when that creeps up, it could be that we fear that we have a lack of intention. We're questioning our intentions. Sometimes there's a lack of patience, and sometimes we're creating a void where we should instead be filling it with self-love and love for the collective and love for what we're doing and continuing to move forward. I think one of the other things, like you said, to include is that sometimes it can also be ego. There's a really good quote, and I feel like I've quoted this before, and I really want to pull it up just so I can say it absolutely correctly. Let's see, because I think it's so important, and I will constantly bring it up. There's a quote that Witch Doctor Alex said probably like a few years ago. and it went viral, and I do think it's so potent. It said, he said, "Ancestors, forgive me for the times I desired a seat at a table that you would have flipped."
Mm,
And
right.
I think that's important in regards to like the conversation about alignment and envy. And this is going to hurt some people's egos. Sometimes our ego wants things that, yes, are not in alignment for us. And I've been there, from the type of relationship I thought I wanted, to the types of collaborations I thought that I wanted, to the type of following I thought that I want. Like, there's tons of times where we have to understand that also rejection is protection. So I think there's an element of understanding envy where, yeah, okay, stay intentional, stay loving yourself, stay in your mission, stay in your alignment, and it's going to pay off. Don't give up and don't be impatient. But then understanding that your ego is going to have to understand that the more you live spirit aligned, the spirit and universe is going to cause you not to sit some places or be in alignment with some things that your ego thinks it desires.
Right.
And that can be kind of like, oh, I think the analogy I would like to use is like, it's kind of like when, you know, when you were a kid and like you were walking across KB Toys with your parents or something, and you're like, "Mom, I want to go inside," and they're like, "No, we're not." And like that kind of like tantrum and anger of like, "Why not? Why can't I?" And being dragged away from it, and it's in eyesight.
Yeah.
It's like torturous.
Well, because, you know, again, it's like what I keep coming back to is like, when I want something, when I get really desirous, you know, I always sort of I try to kick the tires a bit and be like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Right? As a Libra, for me, beauty and harmony of environment is a lot of where my desire comes from, right? I like to dress nice to feel self-esteem. I like to be in beautiful spaces. I like a clean space. You know, in that ways, I'm very, very particular,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for things that I feel are more quote unquote integrated, the envy doesn't seem as mysterious. But where I sort of get really interested is like, why do I see somebody who I don't respect and I don't like the way they hold themselves, but I'm envious as fuck about what they have? Right? So it's almost like this weird thing where it's like, you don't admire them, you don't see them as a way shower. In some ways, you're almost kind of hating on them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have more of that of a kind of a relationship with envy than we do like, oh, I see this person as a great, you know, a great example. Because I don't know, I don't feel as though like personally, I don't get envious really of way showers. I don't get envious of people that I see in integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, maybe I'm at a point where I let them, like, I get gassed.
Mm-hmm.
I like, oh, they got in the door, I can do it too. But I notice for me, my envy comes from usually people that I just don't F with.
So I think this is a good like chunk right now to dissect. So
Yeah.
because the truth of the matter is that might be how you feel, right? That you don't envy the way shores, but there are people who are hating on the way shores and people in integrity because they're in a place of lack still. So that's one side of it. Now the other
Mm-hmm.
side of it, like you're saying, is like, yeah, like envying, hating on people, like you said, that you feel are out of integrity. I feel like with that side of it, I'll dissect that side first because I think that's easier to leeway into the other part. With that, I think especially it's hard. It feels really hard at times choosing going in integrity versus going in your ego. And there's a quote that they always say, the authentic path might take longer, but in the end, it's more legendary. And so sometimes it's almost like you feel like you're, again, like I remember there was a point in my journey where I felt like so upset I'm like, it almost feels like I'm suffering doing the right thing, because there's that temptation there to do all the easy, fast, very like short-lived things that creates, you know, following or business or whatever. But it's like, if you are being deeply spirit led, like, you know, you're like, you know, that's not gonna last. And then like, when that burns out, what are you gonna do? Are you either gonna go to the next best thing that's like that, or do you walk still the path of integrity? And so I think one thing is really something to be mindful of is that, like, when I look at people who might not be necessarily, I feel, living in integrity, I have to ask myself, where are they going to be in 20 years, and where am I going to be in 20 years if I go the authentic path? For me personally, I know that I want to be doing what I'm doing until I'm dead. So like, hopefully like a good 90, 100 years, right? So I know that if I want to create sustainability, I need to be moving in a way that's sustainable. And one of the things that's coming up as a grand topic this Aries season that I've been posting a lot about is sustainability. We are moving away. The paradigms of just pure capitalism is moving away. That's why we're seeing celebrities breaking down. They're having mental breakdowns in front of us at the prime of their career. We're seeing Will Smith break down. We're seeing Doja Cat break down. We saw like, we're seeing people literally hitting #1 in their industry and are like having mental breakdowns, having self-destruction, because we are moving away from just solely material abundance and superficiality. Mental health matters, emotional health matters, spiritual health matters, physical health matters. So you have to ask yourself, what is sustainable in the end? And often we know that lies are not sustainable. Illusion and lies are often not sustainable. The truth always comes to light in some fashion, and spirit has a way of making you accountable. And I think one of the things I want to add to that is that I know when I started my journey, I felt, if this is my vulnerability, like, I felt there were other people, like you said, that I'm like, they're not as potent as me. Their work's not as deep. It's not as valuable. It's very superficial. It's very shallow. It's very boring. And I was like, they're getting the features. They're getting the followers. They're getting the, but then I recognized at that time I was getting put, like, dragged through the fucking mud, adversity. I was getting all of these challenges at the beginning without getting some of the things that they were getting. And I finally had this aha moment. I was like, nah, spirit is putting you through the character building at the foundation. So when you build everything on top of it, you're far more or less collapsible. Because I was seeing people catapult to the top, and then their challenges were coming when they're up here. A lot more light on them, a lot more scrutiny, a lot, you know, whatever. And I got to go through a lot of things privately. There were things I was going through public, but there's a lot of things I got to go through privately that built the foundation. So we're over here like worried about someone who's like, it goes back to the parable, like, don't build your fucking castle on sand. Like, don't build your shit on sand, because the sand is going to go from right under it. It's going to erode. It's going to collapse. So that's why a lot of people, sometimes they're going through their tower moments after they think they done built their shit up. It's like, oh, I'm on top of the castle. It's like, bitch, there goes your foundation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's hard. That's embarrassing to have to go through it, when especially your illusion gets collapsed in front of everybody, especially the people that envy you. That's why they say, like, don't envy people's relationships, don't envy people's success, because when you see that shit collapse in front of everybody, that's why people are always like, oh my God, that's why you shouldn't make people your goals. We don't know how much people are telling the truth and how many people are creating an illusion. And so back to the way showers, you know, I've had people project on me as transparent, as vulnerable as I can be. I know even recently, I think on my birthday, I posted my Cash App. I never do stuff like that. But this girl like was in my comments and she was like, I'm just letting you know that I'm broke and I would, but I'm not going to. But I think that you're okay because you just went to Italy. So she was so she was like assume like I needed her to understand how kind of tacky and projecting that comment was. Because at the end of the day, she was assuming, she was digging in my pockets and she was assuming that my whole trip was funded by me. Well. And I had to say first, I was like, sis, first of all, don't put the spell of broke over your life. Second of all, don't make assumptions. Third of all, X, Y, and Z. And there's times where, yes, people even who admire you, that you're a way shower to, they are projecting because they don't feel like you've had to struggle as much as them. And the truth is, like, people create these like struggle Olympics and they think you're privileged. Like, I've had so much envy come at me because people think I'm privileged when my journey has been anything but privileged. Mm. You know, and I want to hand it back over to you because I could just go on.
I love what you said about getting the foundations right, because I think ultimately what we're kind of sculpting together in this conversation is we were talking about foundations by which to move from that will, again, make you more discerning when those inevitable demons of envy pop into your life, right? Our whole system is designed to basically create all these hierarchies where society says these people are the ones that you should be jealous of, and if you don't have this, you ain't shit, right? And we have this in our own culture. It just looks different and has a different, you know, kind of aesthetic and a different set of words attached to it. But I think, you know, what you're talking about here is cultivating something that is earned through experience and not through replication of what you think it needs to be, right? I'll kind of say that in a different way. It's almost like, you know, you can't read a book about doing push-ups and like expect to get healthy. Right? So it's like all of these kind of trials, tribulations, struggles, I think what they do is they're helping us to see who we are and who we aren't, so that these kind of larger messages of envy that are just a part of social media, they're a part of capitalism, they're a part of this hierarchical culture that we're living in, you know, it's on us to be more discerning. Because it's kind of like, I'm also thinking about the way in which like freedom is earned through discipline. And the discipline of knowing yourself and knowing what you like and what you don't like and what's for you and what's not for you, that's going to help you not get swept away in the currents of envy.
You know, I want to drop something in there because you were kind of like leewaying into around elitism a little bit. And I want to give my opinion on this because I've talked about this before. I always tell people to study language because I think that there's so many powerful spells in language, and I don't measure a word solely by one definition. When I look at words, I like to look at the vibrations, the frequencies, and the perspective of a word. Like yesterday, I was breaking down the word dominant, submissive, you know, all of these words. And telling people like, stop looking at it. It's so like from your trigger and from one only point of understanding. So a few years ago, I started looking at the word elite, right? Because a lot of times people, when we're talking about the elite of the world, we're looking at like this one group of people who we think are like the majority, the superiors that are ruling, you know, the fame and the wealth. Okay, that's all great and dandy, and yes, but a lot of times people are feeding the negative connotation of this word, and they're making it this dirty, nasty group. By all means, yes, there are always a light and a shadow to that, and yes, there are dirty, nasty beings that are doing dirty, nasty things that is tied to that word and that vibration. But when I started looking at it, right, deeper than that, like people, groups of people who feel like they are the best, like they have abilities or qualities that are not just basic, above par in society. I started saying to myself, girl, I don't know about them dirty, nasty, elite people, but you are still elite. Because I think that in order to level up, you have to have that kind of, I got a je ne sais quoi. I have something, because that is also tied to the manifestation process and the confidence process of manifesting some of these things that often sometimes we're looking through the people and trying, like, let me tell you something. I don't come from a wealthy family, right? And there's a great quote that says, if you don't come from a wealthy family, let a wealthy family come from you. And I look at the word wealth beyond the dirty connotation people have attached to money. What is wealth on multiple facets? Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, freedom, flexibility, all of these things. And I had to say, you have to say to people, you're like, it's like, even yesterday I saw this post and I'm like, I've been saying that since 2017. I'm sorry. I'm half Black. When people talk about Black, brown people, whatever, being the minority, I'm sorry, I won't give any energy to that spell. I've been said, I am not putting that spell over my life. I am not a minority. I don't belong to minority. I am majority. I am elite. You have to start putting these spells over your life to start breaking the poverty mindset, the lack mindset. And when we see these people that we might envy or look up to creating these things, some of these people are not coming from that. They are creating that. They are not coming from that. And I want to drop one thing there that I recognized a few years ago. So, my mom loves to play the lottery. I think tons of our parents like to play the lotto, right? They will spend thousands of dollars over their lifetime playing the lotto. And I remember one time taking her to play the lotto, and I got this like irritable feeling, because I always felt like this inconvenience of having to go like buy the lottery ticket. And then I finally Googled, I had this like light bulb moment, and it was like, do rich people play the lottery? And I Googled the information, and I always think this is such a valuable piece of information. The Google analytics said, yes, rich people play the lottery, but they only play the big ones. When there are big ones, they play them at the same capacity as the poor, but the poor play every lottery. And you know what I got from that? I got the element of risk-taking and gambling. They are more invested in large risk-taking with larger rewards. And so when we do look at elitism, when we do look at, wealth and whatever, at some point down the lineage, some of the people were poor and they took big risks. They took big risks. They might have taught their offspring how to take these risks or how to maintain this wealth. So it's created this snowball effect over time. So, when we're talking about way showers, you might not be someone who comes from a wealthy family, but someone like you and me, I consider myself to be a matriarchal figure of society that's in integrity. And I consider a lot of my people, like, I hate to say it, they're like my children. I love, I'm mothering. You're here as a patriarchal figure fathering. Although you might not have come from something, you're building something, creating something. You and I are doing the same thing. And what we're doing is what they called in slavery, each one teach one. Hey, I came from this. I didn't always have this. Sometimes I was in a lack of abundance. This is what I did, or these are the steps I took in order to create that. But at the end of the day, people have to understand that takes an elitist mentality to be able to do that. It takes confidence. It takes you feeling special, you feeling worthy.
Well, I love that you're touching on all this, because this is something that I think never gets really talked about in these conversations, which is people attract a certain kind of frequency because a part of them really believes in themselves, right? Even if, let's say, it's not always 100% true, there is a certain amount of self-belief that you need to be an entrepreneur, to be an artist, to be a person with a platform. Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, you know, some of this envy comes because maybe a lot of us, I was just talking about this with a client earlier today, a lot of us didn't have the benefit in our families mm-hmm. of having someone who held a higher vision mm-hmm. for the family and for the children. Mm-hmm. And so instead, we go to these people out here that we think have it, because we don't know what it's like to have someone where if you say to them, hey, I want to get a degree from an Ivy League school in philosophy, mm-hmm. right? And they would say, okay, like, what can we do together to like make you achieve that, right? How can we collaborate? A lot of us didn't come from environments where we had anyone who held a higher vision, because a lot of our parents were just doing the best they could to survive, stay in their marriage, raise us, you know, live their life, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think, again, like what we're talking about here in a little bit, or actually in a big way, because I feel it in my body, is like envy is related in one way or another to a higher vision that you have for yourself, mm-hmm. right? And you and I, you talked about the matriarchal and the patriarchal. We talk a lot in this space about reparenting, mm-hmm. right? And so I think, again, some of this envy energy is like...
Sorry, I want to look crazy.
No, it's good. I had to itch my nose before too. I was like, don't itch your nose, don't itch your nose, don't itch your nose. Whatever, we live, right? We're just making it happen. A lot of this envy energy, I think, is because we never had those examples. Mm-hmm. And so maybe some of the questions that people like you and I are asking ourselves when we think about being of service is, how can we be that example? And part of that example is fucking living well, right? Yeah. Is getting the bag, is realizing, okay, I had my dark night of the soul. I had my challenges. I remember when my business struggled. I remember when I was addicted and my life was all fucked up. And like now I am here and I'm going to celebrate that.
You know,
right?
I was literally just thinking that, like, before I got on the phone, like, I can't even tell you, like, Facebook reminds me so many times, like, every night at 12 midnight, I go on Facebook and I look at my memories and I see what I was doing, like, over the past 10 years on that date. And, like, sometimes I'm so fucking mortified. But it's testimony, right? Of, like, a mentality that I used to have and a mentality that I've deconditioned and come into a new one. And so there were times where I was, like, on Facebook, like, begging, like, does anyone have miles? Does anyone have points? Does anyone have buddy passes? Can you, like, help me get a plane ticket? Can you, like, because manifesting a plane ticket to me was like, oh my God. And there were times, if I'm honest, like, even when I was a worker, like, I've done so much, like, to get money. Like, I've sold my ass. Like, let's just be frank. We know that. And when I think about the things that I've had to learn or do over time to get where I am now, like, the other day, like, I flew first class for the first time in my life. And sometimes you don't want to share that experience because you're like, oh, people are going to think you're bragging. But then you're like, well, you don't know where I was 10 years, not even knowing how to manifest mm-hmm. getting onto a plane, or how I'm going to get there, or even the process, like. And that's why when I work with my clients, I tell people, I'm like, well, what do you want? Because sometimes you're underestimating your ability, your resource to manifest these things. If you just break it down into different compartments of what is achievable to you based on what you have or what you can create. You know, I tell people all the time, like, if you literally can create something for $100 and sell it to what, 5,000 people, you could create $500,000. So a lot of times, like, when we're seeing people, like, there's a girl, I really love her. Her name is it was a super scent. She's out of Louisiana. You know her?
Mm-mm.
So she's out of Louisiana, and she had this like genius idea to create an eyeshadow palette that was based on the basic Crayola box crayons that we grew up on. No one had done that idea, and she created this palette, and she made like $1 million in 10 minutes. And then she released that palette again and did higher numbers. But that was one creative vision that she had. Does she come from wealth and elite? No, the hell she doesn't. You know, so I tell people all the time, it really takes a mindset and determination and a plan and staying the course. And sometimes your dreams and your manifestations are going to take years. That's why that you know, that really great quote that says, you know, sometimes it takes that 10th year that's going to change your life. I was literally researching Lotto a little bit more this week, the rapper Lotto, who just got her first #1 with Mariah Carey. That girl has been working on this dream since she was 10 years old. She is now 23 years old. It took her 13 years, let's say, guesstimate, to reach where she is. But one of the things that she had was confidence and determination, and she knew who she was going to be, and she knew what she was going to get. You know, so sometimes people are looking in at your 10th chapter, and they've missed out 1 through 9. And I think, though, that is the blessing of the time that we're living in. And I remember one of the things that I learned from Gary Vee in 2017-ish, 2016-ish, when I was trying to transition from sex work to this. Gary Vee said, creating is kind of getting a, you know, push down over the next couple of years. He's like, document over create, because so many people wish that they could be in the documentation parts of people and their success. So that's why social media has blown up, because people get to see this positive side of looking in on someone's process and experience and have relatability of, oh my God, maybe I can do that too, which is the blessing of social media. You know, there's times where you're just like, man, social media is such a powerful tool. And I tell people, don't underestimate social media. There's people who are like, oh, it's just social media. No, social media can change your life. Social media has changed my life. And that's because of the tool of manifestation I've choose to use it as. Don't listen to people who say, oh, just yeah, on some levels, it is just social media. But for some of you, it is the ultimate manifestation tool. The telephone and the advancement of technology, there's too much resources on the internet, and there's too much resources within yourself, really, honestly, and truly, to hate on anybody. It's not like we're living in damn 1600 where we got to send a damn pigeon or a horse to go do something. Your life can change with one post. So while sometimes you're consumed about somebody else's life, create, document, use your resources.
I think also, you know, what you're kind of speaking on here is just getting clear that like you have something to say, and getting clear on like where you want to go, free of any conditioning you may or may not have received. Yep. Like when you were kind of sharing like going to KB, it reminded me of, you know, my parents moved my family from New York, where everyone was kind of a similar socioeconomic background in Staten Island. Everyone was a teacher. Everyone worked for the city. We moved to Jersey. And we were like, my parents were 2 English teachers, high school and community college. And a lot of kids that I went to high school with were, their parents were dentists, lawyers, you know, worked for the government, worked for like a university. And so I received a lot of negative message from my mom about people with money, right? Like, oh, they're snobs. They don't like have the same values that we do. Look at us. They're like materialistic. And I think that, you know, what you're kind of speaking on here is you have to really, in Buddhism, they call it like mudita, which is basically like you have what's called sympathetic joy, which means like you're happy that other people are thriving. And I think that this is something that like in our space that we have here with the people that are watching, me and you, it's like, I think this is something that we could really change within the culture, right? Is like being happy that other people are thriving and maybe taking some notes and inspiration on what they're doing right, rather than like looking for faults and finding like bullshit reasons in which they didn't deserve it.
And the truth is, to add to that, because this is one of the notes that I did actually write down, it's okay to be skeptical. It's okay, you know, it's okay to be skeptical. You know why? Because
you should be.
Yeah, we should be. There should be discernment. It's okay to be skeptical because look, yes, there are people who are lying on the internet. It's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to be cautious because maybe sometimes, yes, things could be too good to be true. It couldn't be that. I mean, sometimes it's okay to be skeptical, but on the other side of it, you're going to be like, damn, yo, it was really that easy to start getting to what I wanted. And, you know, it's better to start fucking around and finding out than to waste too much time being skeptical the rest of your life. But again, this goes back to being the gambler, being the risk taker. You could literally go to the gas station and play the lottery, $1 a day for the rest of your life. Or you could save $1 a day for how many months out the year and invest in yourself.
Yep.
It's the same mentality. It's where you place your faith. Sometimes people are placing their faith in a big payout instead of investing in themselves.
In the process. Well, yeah, and also in hearing you say that, instead of investing in yourselves, I got an intuitive hit. Envy is a distraction, ultimately, right? Because someone who's I don't want to use the word smart, but that's what's coming up. Someone who's smart looks at somebody who's getting it and says, what can I learn from you?
Yeah.
Right? What elements of your process and the way that you show up and your methodology and your expression, how can I, right? This is like kind of the history of music, right? It's like somebody like Prince goes, what did James Brown do? You know, like, what did Jimi Hendrix do? What did Little Richard do? What did this guy down the street that I know do? And how can I make this all work for me? Right? Instead of saying, oh, yeah, well, James Brown, who does he think he is? You know, Godfather of Soul, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck?
Yeah.
So again, right? It's like we have to all just be mindful, myself included, of the ways in which envy can distract you from your discernment, can distract you from being the gambler, right? Because someone who gambles, maybe not like in the bad way, like addicted gambling, but someone who's a big risk taker, they usually have a lot of faith and they have a lot of confidence in themselves because nobody would take a risk if they didn't think it was going to work out.
Yeah, sometimes people are saying, oh, you're so lucky, but it's like a lot of people create their own luck. It's not about being lucky, it's about creativity. Two quotes I'll drop because you know I'm like a quote master. Based on what you just said, comparison is a thief of joy, and sometimes we're hating on people we should be taking notes from. Oh,
I mean that second one is it, isn't it? Because you obviously see something in them. Like, you're not envious of someone that you don't want anything about their life, right? You obviously see something in them that you wish was you, or you like resonate with it.
And I am a big believer that you can learn from anybody, even terrible people, even people you can't stand. I remember one time I quoted, I'm just gonna put out, I quoted Margaret Thatcher, right? Because there was like this Margaret Thatcher quote that I liked, and I had quite a, UK following, and they were like, I can't believe you're quoting her. She was such a terrible woman, like all this stuff, right? So I did this experiment. I left the quote in quotations, but I didn't put who it was that said it, and I got a different response. Nobody criticized who it was coming from. They validated the quote. And that's, you know, sometimes we don't want to take notes from people we don't like or that might not be great people because we don't want to validate who the message is coming from. And it's true. We always don't have to validate who the message is coming from. We just got to take the meat of it, right? It's like take the meat and throw away the bones. Like I didn't want to watch the Kanye documentary at first because he was pissing me off with how he was acting around his divorce. And I'm like, bro, you need to calm down. And then finally I was like, you know what? My partner wanted to watch it. So I started watching for the second episode. I was like, oh my God, people need to watch this. Even if you do not like this man or you don't like what he's currently doing, there's still a lesson of his blueprint that you could, I mean, again, even Donald Trump, as weird and wacky as he is, all these people, whether they're dictators, there's still some shit. I mean, like, it takes audacity sometimes to be that like wacky and still be able to accumulate to something. It's audacity, and it's a weird, twisted confidence. And sometimes all it takes is people who believe in that to uplift you. There's tons of people, I'm sure you know, that we're like, damn, why do you got all that clout? Because people believe in their wacky shit, even if it is delusional.
I think also, you know, just in like the Kanye Trump archetype, right? This like you could even maybe call it like narcissistic,
yes,
right? Like toxic, you know, all that stuff is true. And again, I'm speaking people like me, you, our audience here. I think that when you're empathic and sensitive, you have a certain like aversion and like repulsion towards people like that.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of meat that can be picked off those bones, right? Because imagine if more people who had been processed, as I like to say, people that had gone through their shit, they're in integrity. Imagine if we could borrow or use a little bit of that exaggerated, like braggadocious energy, right? In a way that was more positive, in a way that was more integrated, in a way that was alchemically more aligned. And again, I think a lot of that envy comes because you hate watching someone get it because you're afraid, I know I am at times, you're afraid of really being witnessed in your power because you don't want to be criticized. You don't want to be not liked. You don't want to say the wrong thing, especially nowadays. You don't want to be canceled and have someone misinterpret you in this really specific way that like comes after you. And, you know, it's like, I think again, a lot of that Spirit just said to me, envy can sometimes be the pain of a life not lived.
Absolutely. You know, there's people who have, you know, sometimes it's conditioning, the lack of desire to not break through their conditioning, do the work, get to a point in life where they have a lot of regret and they're projecting their regret on the risks, on the decisions that you've made. I'm no stranger to that. You know, family members have done it to me. I'm just like, this is really not about me, it's about you, right?
I mean, mommy and daddy issues 101, right? Yeah. Oh, don't do that. That's too dangerous. It's like, dangerous for who?
That's impractical. Impractical to who?
Right.
You know, one of the things I want to go back to and then fast forward to as well. So I want to go back to understanding glamour magic because this is something that happens on social media. So like if you look at the basic 101 on definition of what glamour magic is, it's how people want to appear attractive, to often sometimes seduce the things that they want to bring to them, whether it's abundance, manifestation, people, whatever. So it could be choosing something that you wear, jewelry, cosmetics, the things that you have, and they say imbuing it with magic to help you attract good things and protect you from negative vibes. And you know, sometimes like the negative vibes part, it's not even necessarily about that. It's like to attract more of the quality of things that you want. But you see a lot of times what I've recognized with glamour magic on the internet too, is that people have become such glamour magicians that it's like becomes false advertising. It's all marketing and no substance. It's all marketing and no meat. So it's like, go above and beyond to paint the image, honey. But when they open the book and they see the pages are blank, what are you going to do? At some point, you're going to have to be accountable to integrity. You know, and that's what we're finding, is that sometimes people are doing things to create short-term bursts of energy that are not sustainable. I mean, look at how society has really, really changed with social media over the past couple of years, where I want to say this really started happening. I'll just go bring Kim Kardashian into it, right? My partner asked me the other day, he's like, who do you think made BBLs famous? I said, Kim Kardashian. After Kim Kardashian defined this new body type as the new beauty standard, I live in Atlanta, 80% of women in Atlanta have had BBLs. Wow. Because they've said this is the new definition of beauty, because when you have this body type, now you can attract a man. You can attract people who want to give you money. You can become a model. You can become this. You can use this glamour magic to manifest, because as long as you have that, you can attract this. So we've seen with social media, we see the women oftentimes adjusting their image to become seductresses and glamour magicians to attract money, abundance, opportunity, whatever. And sometimes now we're seeing it's the status pieces, it's the Chanel bags, it's the G-Wagons, it's the, you know, every couple of months, it's the Balenciaga sneakers, the this, the that. We start what happens is energy starts going into these items. These status pieces become energetic amulets. And if you're somebody who has that energetic amulet, clearly you're somebody. You've done something right. Listen, again, I live in Atlanta. During the pandemic, people were taking out PPP loans to buy Chanel bags and G-Wagons. And now they're facing jail time. There was a guy, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the article. There was this guy named Hush Puppy. He was a Nigerian scammer who was rubbing shoulders with celebrities, verified on Instagram, traveling all the time. Ultimate scammer. We just witnessed the Tindler swindler. That was glamour swindler.
Yeah,
the Tindler swindler.
The bad vegan.
He's a glamour magician. It's all glamour magic. So sometimes now also too, we're seeing, even let's say like in the witch community, in the spiritual community, one of the things I think is glamour magic sometimes, and I'm gonna be honest, I know coaches lie sometimes. Everybody now is a six-figure coach. I can help you make six figures. Like, everyone's verbiage becomes the same. Everybody's items become the same. Everybody's goals. It's like, because a lot of people are feeding into the glamour magic that they feel has worked for other people. So they're trying to embrace it so they can get to the things that they want.
The envy, right? It like creates the mimicry, which over time makes it less and less special.
Then everybody's walking around like someone else. And then also too, creating sometimes a life that is detrimental and toxic to you in the long run, that you're still going to have to go back and course correct.
It's kind of like, I was just thinking about, you know, being here in Miami, you see a lot of gaudy display, right? People, you could rent a Lamborghini for the night. You could, you know, rent a Gucci outfit for the night, right? You see a lot of gaudy displays of wealth. And it's funny because it's like, if you know, like, actually cool people, you know that, like, you don't need any money to be cool or to have taste.
Like Gucci said, like Gucci Man once said, before I ain't had no money, I still had sauce.
Right? Right? And I think, again, it's like, you know, these envy algorithms, you know, they play on our weaknesses. And I think oftentimes, again, as we talked about in the beginning, without that solid base, you're just looking for the next thing all the time and wondering why you don't feel different. right? We talked about this a couple of times ago, where it's like, if it's out there and it's always the next thing, you might need to come back to yourself to figure out like what's missing.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. There was an article that I read the other day. It's on Exo Nicole. I don't know if you're familiar with Exo Nicole. It's like a women's blog, but there's a really good article that was called "I Went Broke Trying to Live My Best Life."
Oh, yeah.
And so this girl contributed a piece where I guess her and her friends were like trying to go to the Essence Fest, and like she was like, she went broke trying to live her best life, just following the advice of what people were telling her, like YOLO, best life, which, yeah, again, there's an element, again, of that being like a risk taker. You only live once, whatever. But going back to weighing how to take risks, the spiritual journey is always going to be about taking calculated risks. So there's times where, yes, treat yourself, live your best life, but it still comes with responsibility and accountability. And at times, people are really going a route of self-destruction in order to create the glamour magic, to create the illusion, and they're misleading other people too. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend the other day, Lux ATL, who has a tremendously successful business, and she was, talking about she's been driving her like $15,000 car till the wheels come off. There's so many things she could afford, but she's just like, that's not in alignment for me, and that's not for everybody, right? But we were discussing around like sometimes the misguidance or misinformation of business coaches nowadays and MLM marketers or whatever. And it's like, you really have people who are out here who are encouraging people to actually keep them in the cycles that they're trying to break. Like, to live your best. It's like, fuck, like we have to be responsible still.
Oh, I love this, because it's like funny, right? Going back to 2 weeks ago, fake ass healing, right?
Yep.
It's like keeping people that are susceptible to messaging, right? Thinking that they need you, right? Which is really what that envy is, right? Which is that envy of like, oh, okay, this person is not telling me to figure out what makes me happy. This person is telling me this will make you happy, and I will show you how to do it, right?
I had
MLM.
I had a video sent to me by another practitioner, because she wanted me to watch this video going into this empowerment that we were doing. And so she sent me this lady who was like a business coach, right? And she was talking about the law of assumption, but then like a part of what she said was like, she doesn't want to work with anybody who's addicted to their story anymore, as she believes that talking about your story keeps you attached to a part of yourself that blocks manifestation. And I said to her, I said, I understand like the verbiage of some of this, but I said, some of this is not true. And I say some of it is not true because I am someone by human design, as a role model hermit, and with my gene keys, I literally have to share my story to be relatable, to manifest things. So do I believe that sharing my story or going back to a time in my life or whatever is keeping me from manifestation? Absolutely not. And where we have to be mindful of that is a lot of people don't share their story because they're cutting out, they're bypassing. It's like, I'm an overnight success. They are not sharing a lot of their struggles. They're not sharing a lot of the truth. They're selling you this like empty blueprint without any real what's the word? Like with a lot of the things just like not filled in and missing. Cause like sometimes you're just like, all I need is this to do that. No, there's something missing from this story. And again, it's okay to be suspicious, but there is a lot of bypassing going on. And there's a lot of people who, again, like they are portraying and saying one thing, but that's where the ability to read in between the lines. Like there are times where let's say there's someone I envied who I was like, oh, she has more followers than me. She's getting all these features, da, 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 da. And then like she'd say like, I'm booked and busy, I have no time, da, da, da. And then she'd be like saying other things. I was like, but I thought you were booked and busy, or I can't take a vacation. But if you're booked and busy, why can't you afford a vacation? So I would like pay attention. It's not to tear people apart. It's to know that people are not always telling the fucking truth.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to seduce you.
It's yes, seduction. And in
That's the peep show.
Listen, and in sex work, I'm going to put you on to some sex work lingo. We used to call that bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when a potential client would call us, they've seen the ad, and before they decide to book, they said, it's not bait and switch, right? Meaning you are the girl in the picture. You are the person. You are the person you say that, because I don't want to get there and you're not that person. Mm-hmm. We call that bait and switch. Again, another aspect of false advertising. And a lot of times people are doing that. They're baiting people in, they're seducing people in to get what they want, and then they're switching. And again, that doesn't guarantee long-term manifestation. I remember when girls used to do that. I'm like, so why waste your time and someone else's time? Because it doesn't guarantee when they get there, they're going to stay.
Mm-hmm. And you know they're never coming back.
And you know they're never coming back.
Never coming back after that one time.
So that's why at times that like mimicking, like we're talking about, like there are times where like I see people doing things that first of all, they have no license to do spiritually. Like people who are doing all these candle services and community burns for people. It's no different than playing the lottery. Oh, pay me this amount of money and I'll burn this candle on your behalf. So it's no different than going down to the gas station and put in $20 on the Fantasy 5.
Fake ass healing.
Fake ass healing.
Fake ass healing, right?
There are not many people who are truly empowered at a basic level to be able to do that work for you. And I know because people that I've sat in rooms with and elders have told them their life is a damn mess and they need to start over. They're the ones on Instagram right now doing community burns for the community.
This is what we talked about at the top, right? Is that the path to integrity is slow and deliberate, because when you're dealing with energy, your being could only handle so much at a time, right? Like imagine if you went from being just totally asleep, unconscious, to like fully, empowered, enlightened in like a day. Mm-hmm. Like you couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle it. And so again, I think like in this envy conversation, what I'm sort of hearing is like maybe one of the ways that we can disrupt this pattern of envy, right, is to just be a little bit more strategic about what the next step is.
Absolutely.
Right? Sorry, just this came through too real strong. Like within that envy, I find often for a lot of us is like that feeling of helplessness. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this person's gonna like save me and like show me the way, right? Or like I can't do it myself, so I'm gonna project onto them all the things that are missing in my own life, right? I mean, this is like Hollywood shit 101, right?
Yeah, one of the things I think is really important, and it's in the notes that I wrote down, is learning to define your own space in life. Because it's really easy with this voyeurism that we have on the internet to walk around becoming a clone of someone in someone else's life, and at some point realizing, damn, this ain't for me, or just keeping up appearances to maintain the illusion or whatever have you. Really creating solutions for your life and not more challenges. Like going back to the like putting yourself into debt, going broke, trying to live your best life. Like the path forward for you in the life you're creating should create more freedom. It should not create more imprisonment. I mean, look, I'm gonna put it all out there. In 2012, 2013, when I was a worker, I remember like being like, oh, I can't wait till I get me another client. Next week, I'm going to go buy me this Michael Kors bag. And I bought me my dream BMW. And then eventually when I started I was about to get me a BBL too. I had a down payment put on a BBL. Your girl was going to get her little Kim K on. Look, after I have some kids, I might still do it, right? I'm going to get Beyonce's new booty. That's the one that I like. But I say this to say, Spirit started giving me this download in 2016, actually right before I was going to get this BBL. I had just put down like $4,000 on it. And I kept hearing the bare necessities, the damn bare necessities from the Jungle Book. It was like, so I remember stripping myself down. I took my weave out. I started wearing less makeup. I started just like, I went on a vegetarian fast, like, and then I was like, I don't think I should get this right now. I don't think it's important. And eventually I started shedding some of my very, vanity, egotistical things to do the work. And then I came back to, okay, but what's still in alignment and still what's in integrity with me? So it's like the reintegration, like, okay, yeah. And I just made a post about this a few days ago. I realized the other day that one of the things I did have a hard time reintegrating in my spiritual journey is my vanity. And the other day I admitted, I was like, you know what? I started getting triggered on my spiritual journey because people were calling me vain, but I'm really humble. But the truth of the matter is, you know what? I'm gonna admit it. I am vain. I like putting pride in how I look. I like things. So there's no problem with that because that's really who I am. And now we can reintegrate it after we've done a certain level of healing, because now that doesn't define me, but it is supplemental to my being.
Yes. Again, right? This is, I love this. What we're talking about here is like the necessity of basically getting like stripped down to the bolts, right? And then you start re-adding what makes sense for you now. You know what I mean? And that is why, again, when we talk about like fake ass healing, it's like people are trying just to add more adornment, right, to the frame without having. It's like when you about to buy a house, right? You pay the inspector, right? You pay the inspector to alert you to any of the big flaws, right? Oh, like your roof's gonna go, or like this pipe, you got to replace it, or whatever. And I think, again, in this work, we're not encouraged to do that, but that's okay because Spirit does that for you, right? Spirit will strip you down to the bolts and take away anything so that you have the privilege of being able to rebuild all that stuff. I love what you're talking about here because I think like this really just jams with a lot of the energies that I've been working on the past couple of years. Is like, I don't know if you felt this, but I'm just put it out there. It's like when you were really deep in your like year in white, and
I was about to bring up my year in white. Thank you. We're aligned.
Yeah, so it's like when you're in that, right? Like when you're a real what's the word I'm looking for? Renunciate, right? When you are a real renunciate, when you come back out, I think sometimes it can be challenging because there's this message that we've like absorbed of like, you can't be spiritual and get the bag, right? It's like you can't follow, but then also be vain, right? And so I love that we're just bringing this into conversation because I feel like this is something that not a lot of people feel comfortable about because they're so conscious about maintaining like this super consistent like brand image.
Yeah.
Right.
I think this is such a good topic, and I was literally just about to bring this up, so I'm so glad we're like there. So, and then for those of you who don't know what a year in white is, so I'm an initiate of the Afro-Cuban practice of Santeria, and for a year I went through an initiation where I had to just wear white. Technically, depending on what you do for work, you are also not allowed to have photographs taken of you, videos taken of you. You should minimalize your makeup, hair, all these things. But with the exception of your occupation, which right now we're seeing celebrities like SZA, Summer Walker, who are actually, you know, they're all initiates, and we're seeing them do their years very publicly, so that's their occupation. So during that year, as much as you can control within your occupation, you have to, like you said, renounce certain lifestyle things as a temporary sacrifice to this rebirth that you've gone through. And so for me, for someone who over the period of years, like my identity was very tied to my hair, my makeup, the way I dressed, all of these things, doing that was a huge sacrifice. And although and you're not even supposed to wear like perfume during that time. You don't wear things like, you know, perfume, alcoholic stuff. Like you could just use holy water and cocoa butter, stuff like that. So there were so many things that were stripped away from me. And I even remember going into the, you know, into the room and like, you know, like them redressing me and stuff. And one of the ladies was like, oh, panties too sexy, not for baby, not for yawo, meaning like even the white underwear that I had purchased, she was like, too sexy for a yawo. And I was like, I felt like, so I have to wear granny panties the whole year? Like, what do you mean? Like, so there was so much where I was like, this is a lot. So it's funny, one of the things that I did do going into my throne and into the room that I did for myself out of my own little vanity thing was I had a white Versace robe and I had some white Versace slides. And I said, if I'm going to be on the throne, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And I remember feeling so like not myself, so like, I couldn't see myself that way. I was like, ugh. And I remember my Petunia was like, oh, I like your robe. And I was like, thank you, it's Versace. It's Versace, right? Like showgirls. And going out of the throne that week, and I remember I was sitting on the couch, and although I had all that on, I had my head wrapped, I remember them kept saying, you look like a nun, you look like a nun. And I felt like so like, I was frustrated. I felt so like not myself. And so one of the things that happens the first day out was I was walking in the market with my godbrothers, and I had on my sunglasses, I had my head wrapped, I was under an umbrella, I was completely covered head to toe. And I heard someone scream out, "Trap witch!" And she recognized me under all of that. And that was kind of like this like little reminder I needed that you're still you and you're still recognizable. But for that year, I was so grateful. You know, I was allowed to do video and photo because of my work. But one of the things I was grateful for, although I wasn't showing up as flamboyant and decorated as I am now, my most powerful work came from that year because I was so detached and so disconnected from showing up to perform on a superficial level. I was more concerned about my sexual energy on a potency power level internally. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, if I can't show up this way, how can I dig deeper in order to show up? And I'm so glad over time that I've had to make these sacrifices because they've made the foundation stronger. Mm. And like you said, now it's not just some empty vessel decorated. It's actually something that's decorated and has something inside too. And this is like what we talk about a lot of times in Santeria too. Like, you have people, because they're jealous of people who have gone through the process, they see the rewards. They mimic what the rewards look like by dressing in costume, putting the beads on, trying to do the altars. But like people always say, like, if you haven't gone through the process, the things that you're creating are empty. You know, I've gone through the sacrifice, and I have the Orishas sitting in my home right to the right of me. There's 10, you know, there's probably like 10 of them sitting right, and they're filled with real spirit of the things that I sacrifice for because I've put in the work. Yep.
Again, right, is envy misalignment. It's like envy is you seeing an energy in somebody else, right? I want that. Mm-hmm. Some people say, okay, I'm gonna go inside and find it, right? I'm gonna strip away the distractions and find it, which is, I just got a message from Spirit, right? The truth is always it's like in the minority, you know, right? It's like, the truth is against the current, right? And so everything in this algorithm, right, this like Instagram-y kind of consumeristic world is like, oh, just get this thing out here and then you'll be like Kim, right? You'll be like, you'll have all the swag and the men and everything, right? And I think what you're describing here is, this is the long road, right? This is the hard stuff. This is like when you're not all that and shit is not popping. But I love the story about being in the market because it was almost like the swag is undeniable, right? Even before I had the cash, I had the sauce, right?
Before I had money, I still had sauce. Like, and you know,
sauce, yeah.
You haven't known me that long, but for OG Trap Witch followers who were with me from like 060, 070, like Gucci was like one of my archetypes because I was an Aquarius, like WAP was like my like, and it's true. That's why like when I coach people, I always talk about the noodle and the sauce syndrome. Like there's tons of people with credentials and the noodles, but you got to have the sauce too. So yep. The problem is sometimes with envy, people are trying to just have the sauce, but then they have to be accountable to the noodles and the credentials later on. So it's like you try to sacrifice one for the other, and it's like you really have to do both in the long run for sustainability. So, you know, at the end of the day, when I came out, yeah, I was going for more of the sauce, but then I was held accountable by my elder. My padrino was like, look, girl, Trap Witch is cute. Build your platform, build your following. He's like, but you have accountability to those spirits to hold your covenants. You have to be in alignment with your you know, like, because there's people out here spreading misinformation. There's people doing things that are not in alignment with the covenant of spirit, because actually they don't have no damn covenants with spirit. They're kind of free balling it out here with their ego, and then people are mimicking them, and that's dangerous. You know,
the envy.
It's the envy thing. It's like, oh, I just want that. But it's like, again, back to ego. And the truth of the matter is, even like when we were talking about like the KB toy store thing, like I seldom got KB toy store. Like my ass was always in Goodwill, like, or Salvation Army. But when I think about it, there's still a lesson in that. There's still, I remember all of my Barbies might have been from Goodwill, but I had about 100 of them, and they were still mine. They were still what I wanted, and there were still many of them. So I might have not been able to get the $150 one, but I still had them. And I think that's a lesson my dad really always taught me. My dad was not a wealthy man. He died a poor man, but that man always made something from nothing. You know, he lived in kind of like a shack of a house on the water before he died. I remember like going to his house, and like there were no doors in the house. Like my bedroom door didn't have a door. When he moved in, the bathroom didn't have a door, but he would like build what he could and create what he could, and he would make it the best. And I think sometimes, you know, people are too what's the word, like impatient. And sometimes that's where we start. Sometimes that's not always where we're going to stay, but we have to start somewhere. And just being at gratitude for every part of your process. You know, you're not going to be in the same place all the time if you're seeing the course, but we're responsible for our own habits, and we're responsible for how we create. We're responsible for how we recreate ourselves. And as human beings, we have the ability to change and evolve, but no sense in creating a shell of the outcome that you want without the foundation.
Do you know Island Boys?
Yes. I'm an island boy.
Right? Like, because I was just thinking about this, right? I was thinking about people that are like,
are they like vanilla Kodak Blacks?
Dude, honestly, like, I don't even know what the hell they are, but um, I get served up a lot of these like art criticism, like cultural criticism videos on YouTube. And one of them is like why Island Boys failed. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like interesting. Like, I don't take any like joy in their failure, but I was just curious, like what an art critic or a music critic had to say. And it's like, you have these dudes that like, obviously like they look bananas. You know what I mean? Like they're twins, which just like has its own like weirdness. It's like they don't really spend much time on their music, as you could tell. And like they're really just, again, it reminds me of like 6ix9ine and like a lot of these like, and Little Pump, like a lot of these like clout chasers where you have a career for like 18 months and then like crickets. You know, and I think that there's a lesson in, yeah, dude, like it's cool. It's fun to like check out stuff that's seductive and wacky and like really grabs your attention and like, oh my God, like these guys are crazy. They're like starting beefs and like just being super extra. But like you said, right? How sustainable is that really?
It's not, you know, it's interesting. Recently I got into a beef with someone. And to be honest, I don't like the person. And I was invited to have a conversation around a topic that people were involving me in because they were just like, we want your input and we want your perspective around this, right? And I was like, okay. And quite frankly, I knew potentially it was going to start some issues because this person thinks that everybody wants to be them. Everybody like it's jealous of her. Everyone was like, it's actually comical how like narcissistic it is. So I was prepared that there was going to be some backlash if I wrote about this, but I was just like, it's just too important of a topic not to. And so she was just like, you need to piggyback off of my stuff. Everybody needs to talk about what I talk about for clout. And I was just like,
ooh.
Just because someone has an alternative perspective to your very loud and wrong opinion does not make someone a clout chaser. I wish you would say to my face that I need to do anything that is mimicked from you for clout. Because what I recognize is, you know, this is also a part of the glamour magic. Sometimes people feed into the, people are so jealous of me. People are so, like, all the damn time, because that creates a glamour magic that people should believe that you have this influence and power over so many people, right? So one of the things I recognize is that this person, whenever they want the attention, they do a glamour magic to say something just really negative, do something really whatever that drives the attention. But every time it gets too quiet, it gets too crickets, they have to do something so confrontational, conflicting, whatever, to get the attention again. So you're realizing that you don't have a real enough substance in the long term to create the mass appeal that you want in the long term. So, and a lot of people do that. That's what we call clickbait. People try to go viral off of stupid, lack of substance things, or sometimes they will risk looking silly just to get the attention to drive up their numbers. And, you know, I know, like, I just did a master class where I participated in, I gave content, it was called Social Media Slay. My friend Angela Gallo put it together. And so she asked like a list of questions like about going viral or whatever, like how to create viral content, whatever. And I said, I don't believe in creating viral content. I believe in creating spiritually led, aligned content from spirit. And then so happens if it's something that the collective needed and they shared it in mass amounts, cool. But we have to be so mindful of just creating clickbait and like, you know how mad I was over the Gorilla Glue thing? It is so hard for me to get verified on Instagram, and I'm like, I was actually a little jealous. If we're talking about envy, I was a little envious that something could be so stupid, lack so much substance, and I provide my tax information, my articles, I show up day in and day out, and a girl could get verified in 2 days over being stupid enough to put Gorilla Glue on her head.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. People see that and they're like jealous of the attention people are getting. And they're like, well, let me go do something stupid too. So it's, you know, when you think about it, it's kind of like I watched Jackass Forever the other day. And, you know, they got pretty famous of doing it. But like, we are seeing like a whole generation of kind of like that energy of like the Jackass energy.
Yeah. I love Jackass. I love ridiculousness.
It is kind of, you know, it is kind of like you're like, wow, like you do not value your nether regions at all.
I also love ridiculousness on MTV, which is like it's like the America's Funniest Home Videos version where it's all found shit of the same stuff.
But the problem is though, now social media has created like the other day, so like someone passed away, and I found this video online where the family was in the girl's comments like, you need to take this video down because all you're doing is lying on someone who just died so people can come to your YouTube channel. That's how that chick, that blogger recently just got sued by Cardi B. Cardi B was like, I've had enough of you lying on me for clout, for numbers. Now you owe me $4 million.
Wow.
Did you know about that case? There's a blogger named Tasha K who kind of is like Wendy Williams-esque-ish. And she was creating a lot of content around Cardi B and a lot of things. Cardi's like, you're falsifying information, you're making me look really bad, it's hurting me. Like, so Cardi sued her for like defamation and emotional stress and won $4 million.
Yeah. Well, this kind of ties into like something that you and I have been talking about a lot in these you know, chats, is like building this like separate structure that like doesn't work on those kind of algorithms, right? I think we're in this weird like kind of transitional moment where it's like we're kind of playing the game a little bit of like the old world where you have to be a little bit like outrageous and like triggering and like pizzazzy, right? It's like a little bit of like show business. Like if you're like a perfectly good rapper that wears like normal clothes, it's like a little bit hard to get any interest because there's not really anything like separating you. Yeah. But I think what we're doing in this space in just our own very like safe and contained way is like we're trying to kind of set up a new economy where we could all thrive without having to necessarily compromise ourselves in those same ways, you know? Because again, a lot of that envy algorithm is like outrage, we talk about this all the time, you and I. People not getting along, talking bad about people, cloud chasing, starting fights, putting down other people's actions and activities, right? Like all that energy is used, like you said, it's like a big clickbait. And so what we're trying to construct here is a different way of carrying ourselves. Maybe the numbers won't be as big, you know what I mean? But we could all sustain ourselves and live abundantly because there's enough of us that are all coming online, both literally and like metaphorically, you know? It's almost like, I use this term a lot when we talk, but it's like, we're like the mutant children of like the new age. You know what I mean? Like X-Men or whatever, where it's like we're learning how to use our like powers in these like new ways because the old system is not designed for people like us to thrive. Like you said about the entertainment business changing, you know, I worked in that business my entire adult life and still do. Like it's toxic. You know what I mean? People are used the fuck up. And like, I think what we're trying to build here is just a different way to show the sauce, have pizzazz, be beautiful, wear a nice shirt, you know, but not have to compromise. I love that. Authentic versus who and lattice in the room. Thank you to whoever commented on that. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going for. It's exactly what we're going for.
I feel like, yeah, we're seeing so much of that. Like even the other day with like the whole Will Smith situation, right? Like, I'm always very cautious of how I create content that's aligned with that world on my page because In the spiritual community, there's a lot of woke police that believe everybody is the Illuminati, everybody's MK Ultra, everything's this, everything's evil. And like, I get conspiracy theory. I'm not knocking it, but I live a very spirit driven life. So until spirit tells me, nah, don't post about that people because they MK Ultra or whatever, if I still have a gem to drop, I'm gonna drop it. So my thing is this, is like, again, we can still learn from situations, right? Regardless of who it is. And so we're seeing like so many of these things happen in real time that are still lessons about this old world and this new world, because again, right, like everything is a lesson, everything is a learning opportunity at times. So like you're saying, there is a lot of realness coming through. Like even to me, like how Tiffany Haddish responded on did you see that Tiffany Haddish, like when she responded?
No.
That reporter, she was having a really bad night, because I saw like a clip of Tiffany Haddish and then also Angus Cloud from Euphoria, and like both of them were not having it with her interview style. And so the reporter said to Tiffany, they were like, "Oh, did you go to a costume change?" And she's like, "No, honey, I'm not wearing a costume. I'm wearing Dolce & Gabbana, and I paid for this. It's custom. It's this." And then she went on to like this kind of like, people could say it could be a little egocentric, but she's like, "No, honey, this is what success looks like. This is what," and the reporter was like, she's like, "This is me dying right now," because she was embarrassed at how she had, maybe nerves, whatever. But I feel it's interesting. We're seeing a lot more authentic, in real time type of situations, and seeing also the very human side of certain industries.
I think like, the mask of likability and like normalcy, it's like real heavy to wear for a long time. And I think one thing that's just happened a lot over the past 2 years is like, people are just like, fuck it, like this is too heavy.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna like, I can't, it's like we're seeing both the shadow and the light side of that, right? Because you see some people where the performance of like keeping everything together is too much, and so they just go straight like fuck everybody, like ether the world, right? And then you see other people that are just like, oh, this is too heavy, like I'm just gonna like let loose a little bit and like not have to work so hard at like maintaining this,
Absolutely. I think it's really important. One of the things I also wrote down was, how being mindful with the energy of envy, it really can impact how good you are to yourself, and then just also like how good you are with interacting with others.
Yeah.
And there was a time, where actually even recently, I was honest with a sister in the community, because like over time, like I would like follow her and unfollow her because she was deeply triggering to me at one point. And I had to sit with myself and be like, why does she trigger you so much? And going back to what you're saying, and I recognize, and some people might say, well, Travelers, what do you mean? Like I felt like she was very large and taking up space in a way that intimidated me. And I was like, and so some people are like, what do you mean? Like you? I'm like, nah, that lady was triggering me even more. And she started, following me. She was in my DM a lot. And someone had just recently practiced vulnerability and honesty with me, because there was a girl who didn't like me at first, or what some things I was doing. And she had this, like, she was doing like a 21-day, honesty thing. She's like, I have to be honest with you. You triggered me in this way. I wanted to tell you, I don't want to be fake with you. And she's someone who now we're learning from each other. And so I decided to do the same thing to this lady who triggered me, because like she was in my DM and I'm like, I can't be fake with her. I feel like we need to start off on a real solid foundation. I should tell her how I feel. And I did. And I told her, but then I said to her, I said, I realized it wasn't about you. I realized it was a part of myself that was inviting me to more. And I thank you for mirroring that.
I love this. Because right? I think like the envy conversation, it's not out there. It's like, if I want what this person has, why? right? Maybe you can do a little desire mapping and see what it is about that lifestyle or about that sauce that you find delicious. Same thing for the triggering, right? Why is this person just like getting me? You know what I mean? Like, why is this person, the way that they carry themselves, affecting me and making me so angry? And like, why am I giving them this energy? You know, I think that's a great, you know, sort of thing just to throw into the cipher is like, when we find ourselves getting into the envy, into the comparison, how can we bring it back to us? So that way we can really address the core stuff that's going on underneath, deeper down the well. You know, I love that, man. I think that's a great, you know, kind of methodology for like working with conflict. You know, what does this say about me and what's happening in me that this is like such a big deal?
Yeah, you know, I don't think that, you know, envy and jealousy has to be this thing that destroys you. Like you said, like it's a part of shadow work. Like you can ask what this emotion is inviting you to. And, you know, sometimes it can be as simple as, like you said, like, you know what? It's because this person I think lacks integrity. I don't like them. And yeah, I want the same things that they have, but it's okay that I don't like them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I find that, especially on the spiritual journey, what we're trying to do to like keep our purity and our holiness and our righteousness is then justifying that it's not okay just not to like someone. And I did a post about this recently. It's like, it's okay to like value, to learn something from them and still not like them.
Yeah. I mean, this is again part of the people pleasing conversation is sometimes you just got to be like a fuck no to people. You know what I mean? And like, you don't need to know the reason. You don't need to know why. You don't need to make it about them, but just energetically, if you're just a fuck no to somebody, like that's cool. Like just own it and don't try to contort yourself to rationalize it or make it so there's something wrong with you. You know, I think a lot of people, again, in the spiritual community, I love that you address this. A part of us is still working out how to have like skillful conflict with people, right? Skillful disagreements. And because the world that we live in, right, the media environment is so like, it is so beef centric, right? We have to like kind of reteach ourselves how to slow down, have conversations, be in disagreement, and realize that like if somebody upsets you, it's like it's not their problem. Stop making everybody else the problem for things that you're triggered by. It is not the world's job to accommodate you and your level of comfort at all times.
Yeah, you have to be able to call back your energy to yourself, you know, and call back your power. And again, right, it's like it's really important to define your own space in your own life. And again, people can be used as inspiration, but don't make anybody your blueprint. God and Spirit has divinely designed you to come here and live a mission and a purpose in a life that, yes, might appear similar to other people, but your path is your path. And so you have to be really mindful about what you envy, what you're inspired by, because again, you have to check in with Spirit and be like, so Spirit, is this something that's for me at all? Or is it just not for me like this season? Or is it not for me, you know, whatever? Because sometimes there's going to be things that are not for you in this season. And there's going to be things that are not for you at all.
Yeah.
And then there's things that absolutely you're going to get in another season. And the things that you're going to get because you deserve them at some point. And that was like one of the best pieces of advice when I went to Cuba in 2018 and I did my IFA ceremony was the Babalao was like, don't envy anybody else's path because you are all growing different fruits and you come to ripeness in different seasons. And so, you know, that's like that's down to understanding just seasonal damn food, like seasonal vegetables. Like, no, you can't get this season because they're not seasoned. So sometimes you're here complaining that you don't got the fruit, but you've got your roots, You've got your trunk, you've got your branches, but your leaves and your fruit hasn't come in. But you over there looking like, well, damn, they got their leaves and they got their fruit and people buying up their stuff and they're getting money for whatever. It's like, run your race. Back to the tortoise and the hare. Run your race. Focus on running your race. Because even with the hare, he was focused on, man, that man's slow over there. I ain't worried about, but it was still comparison.
Yeah, right?
He got distracted, you know, when you think of it, he got distracted by comparison, then got comfortable, and then he lost.
Got lazy.
So,
I want to just speak on seasonality for a moment, because this is something that a lot of my my masculine friends and I have been talking about. Is I think a lot of men in the culture right now are learning from the divine feminine that seasonality is a thing.
Yep.
Okay? Because for us, we've been so conditioned to always be hunting and providing all the time that we don't understand that. Because I was talking to my friend, listen, I'll be transparent here in this space. Like, I've just been doing a lot of creative work these days, right? I'm writing, I'm art directing. My coaching has been like we'll just say like a little bit cold. You know, I was talking to my friend, I said, yeah, I'm not doing a lot of coaching right now. And he's like, well, maybe it's just not the time for you to be coaching, because you're going to get your bag doing this other stuff. And you've been doing a lot of inner work these past 10 years. Maybe you just need 3 or 4 months to like integrate. And I was like, fuck, you mean like I'm not a failure? You know what I mean? It's like, no, dude, like it's just not the season of coaching, you know? And I think, again, a lot of that envy comes because we don't trust our own cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't, and we get fearful. We get fearful because we don't know, are the goodies ever going to come?
Yeah,
you know?
I remember in 2018. It was 2018. I remember in 2018, I was sitting with one of my mentors at the end of the year, and we were playing, like, because he had a great number of like decks and runes and stuff that I didn't have, so I always liked him. Oops, where'd he go? I was talking with my eyes closed. We'll call him back in. I was like so in the zone. I was like,
yo, sorry, like we got too super dupered on the internet. It was like it fried the internet. I don't know what happened.
It's
anyway,
okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
But yeah, I asked him to do a rune reading for me, and the runes were like, you're gonna spend the next year or two sitting down. Things are gonna slow down for you. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, because I was ready to hit the ground running. I had just started doing events. I was like going to other cities, and I was like, what? Because even though I was going in my year in white, I was like ready to get it popping. So I did my year in white, and then as soon as the year in white hit, the pandemic hit. While I was finishing the year in white. And not only that, I recognized that my partner came into my life at the beginning of the pandemic too. And I just wanted to spend a lot of time working on my inner child. You know, what it was to like fall in love again, taking care of me. So I was still working, but I found myself not hustling, not trying to capitalize like how I was the years before. I was really taking some time to do integration work, because being fresh after that year in white and trying to reintegrate, having gone through that, and then like now then reintegrating relationship. Okay, you've built this track, but what about your inner child and Tatiana? Like, there were so many things that were like trying to find their ways on how they were going to fuse together. And if I'm honest, I feel like right now is the time that I'm going for the last parts of this transformation before things go up again. And I just had an astrology reading, and he was like, you're ending a 7-year cycle. And when I looked at like when that 7-year cycle began, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. So, you know, seasonality is important. Knowing that, again, like you said, sometimes there's times to rest and not time to quit. You might be putting coaching on the low burner in the back. Doesn't mean you're turning it off. You just have something on the high burner in the front. And even as an entrepreneur, you got to learn when your seasons are to rest, when to go into overdrive, into more like recreation, reproductivity. And even like this weekend, like I said, I was like, should I do a workshop? And I pulled on it. They're like, no, you should sit down and you should rest.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it might not make sense to you why. But then later on, you'll understand what the whys later on sometimes. Sometimes this faith is not understanding the why right now. So why don't I have this? Why not that? Like, maybe it's a season for something else. And you know, when we talk about manifesting, like even let's like manifesting love, like there was like how many years? It's pretty much a 4-year waiting period between my last real relationship and now my current partnership. And in the seasons of being alone, the best thing I could ever do, and this is to, you know, people who are trying to learn from way showers, stay faithful to what you want. Don't go into the vibration of being a hater, being pessimistic, casting spells over yourself. It's never going to happen for me. Like one of my, I detest going into readings, love readings with women. And the question is, will it ever happen for me?
Yeah.
No, girl, tell me, will it ever happen for you?
Yeah.
Because that's
right.
that's a spell in itself of doubt and pessimism. And so it's not sometimes about will it, it's about when and what should you be doing in the meantime. And
Yes.
look, I went through my divorce at the time where people were getting married, having their babies. And I'm like, Spirit, you a dirty damn liar. Why I got to start over now, and why I can't have those things that I thought I was going to have at age 30. And they're like, because your season is different. You're building your business, you're building your mission, you're building your purpose. We're going to give you your man later. But what I did in the meantime was, anytime I saw something that I celebrated and what I wanted, I would share it. The year, especially before I met my partner, like I would see like those like couple pages. There was one I really loved called Me and Somebody's Son. Anytime I would see it and I'm like, yeah, that's the vibe I want, I would repost it to my story and I'd be like, me and somebody's son, summer 2020, me and somebody's son, and you know, I would put this out to the universe. And it's crazy how some of those things literally manifested. So when I'm like in the middle, like even for example, I loved A Star Is Born. That soundtrack, I love the soundtrack. I would listen to the song and I'm like, yeah, when like I have my partner, like, and so I made him watch the movie. And then like sometimes he like will start playing the soundtrack. And like one day I just like legit cried because I was like, I was singing this song by myself when I was manifesting you. But again, that's like the testimony of understanding your season. There were a few seasons where I was lonely by myself, strongly desired the things that I wanted, apart, money, travel, popularity. Like I even remember someone saying to me recently, like, oh, it's easy for you to say to make friends because you're popular. I was a loner bitch a few years ago. I was I was a loner. I was angry. I was isolated. People would not want to talk to me. Now I have to figure out how I can create boundaries so I'm not accessible. But that's not something that I was privileged to start with. It was something I earned through consistency.
Through the seasons.
Through the seasons.
Through the seasons, right? Yeah, it's an inside job, like everything we talk about every week when we hear, right? Like when you're more in tune with your purpose, when you're more in tune even with your own season, it's a lot harder to get swept away in those currents of envy because maybe this is their time. You know, again, I saw this so much in the music business. It was like, I would see these people and they would ascend very quickly to having things that on the surface I thought that I wanted, right? They were successful artists, making money, they have attention on them, people want to be around them, people want to interview them. And like that shit's cool, but for a lot of them, you know, that came and went in like 2 years And now they're on the other side of it, not doing any of that stuff, you know? And so I feel fortunate that it didn't happen for me back then because I was a shithead. Right? Like famous Eliott telling everyone that like he's amazing at age 29, like, oh,
in the midst of your Saturn return.
Right? I was just thinking the same thing. Exactly.
You know,
right?
Those seasons, sometimes seasons of character building, because like me, sorry, y'all, look at my lipstick, it's fucked up. Hold on.
That's all right. I'm gonna wipe my nose right here. We'll be let's just right. We'll make it nice.
Whatever. I don't want to look crazy, Eliott. Anyway, I look like a clown. But anyway, when I think about it, like people have to understand why seasons are so important, like for character building. If me 10 years ago was granted the opportunities and the responsibility that I have now, I would have already destroyed it.
Shithead. Yeah, totally.
We're going to the shithead mentality, yeah.
Yeah, just exactly. It's just
stuff.
It's not like I love shithead because like a shithead isn't necessarily like malicious.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't know, like you're just a shithead.
You're ignorant.
I read, also this just brought up something that really resonated with me. I forgot where it was, but a couple of days ago, someone posted about how like stop putting so much pressure on yourself to always think positively, because people that actually have life experience with both positive and quote unquote negative things are so much better suited to have long-term success and enjoyment of life, because they're not so addicted to like the highs of things going well. And I think again, that's kind of what we're talking about here in the seasonality is like, you just might be getting a little bit of vinegar right now because soon, there's some honey, A month ago, I sat down on my bed in Austin, Texas, fed up, just like I said, God, please make my life different. 2 days later, here I am, different city, different situation. Before them, it wasn't my time. Now, it's my time.
Yeah,
right?
and I think even to, talk about like, I remember coming into the Witches of Color community and getting met with like a lot of rejection, a lot of like, you can't sit with us, or we don't like you, or I'm just like, I just don't. And that season of like rejection, building this foundation of sovereignty and independence, that it's like, now it's like, I don't give a fuck, I don't need you all. And that's sometimes the lesson sometimes is Spirit's teaching us, is that we don't need certain things that we want. Spirit is like, no, listen, that's not the table you're gonna sit at. I will flip that table before I let you sit at it. And we don't understand in the moment because our ego is like, I don't understand. Like, again, the KB moments, or like KB Toys moments are like, I don't understand. And they're like, no, like it's that like cartoon illustration of like the little girl that has the little tiny teddy bear, and then like God or Jesus is like standing there with like this humongous one behind their back, and he's like, give me the bear. And she's like, no, I don't want to let go of that one. It's like, but you got a bigger blessing waiting. So, even with understanding, like sometimes we're envious of people and what they have, and like Spirit might be withholding something so much better for you in the long term, but understanding your seasons and your blessings, what's for you and what might not be for you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I got an intuitive hit when you were just talking about, kind of challenges. I was working with a client like a month ago, and they had really bad writer's block. And I said, well, as your coach, I guess the reflection that I have is like, Spirit's just teaching you how to have a bad game. Right? When you're a pro athlete, when you're a pro musician, obviously not every night is like on fire in the groove. And sometimes in life, you just might be going through a 2-month or a 7-year period where Spirit's just teaching you how to have a bad game.
And again, so much obedience and discipline comes through disappointment.
Oh, yes.
I remember one time I was putting together an event and it was not doing the numbers that I wanted it to do. And I was thinking about canceling it, and I pulled to a page in my devotional, and it was discipline over numbers.
Yep.
And Spirit was like, you cannot cancel that event. Whether one person, two persons come, you have to do it. You have to get used to understanding discipline over your ego. And I remember me and my boy, Brendan, we put together a event in Brooklyn. And if we're honest, like the first couple of weeks as we were promoting it, the numbers were like, the math was not mathing. We wanted 50 people in the room. And up until about the week before, we probably had about 10, 11 people signed up.
Sure.
We got to Brooklyn that week, and we finally got 30 people. So there was like a mass influx at one time. And we got to the room that we were facilitating in, and you know what happened? Once everybody was lied down to do the breath work, we could only literally fit 30 people in that room. So if we had had 50 people, we would have had to turn 20 people away.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson from spirits, like, oh, you think you know what you want, and which
That's it.
down. And sometimes it's like that.
Look, we all get our feathers ruffled. We get upset when things don't show up when we need them or when we think we need them. But again, right, that's just driving you deeper towards devotion, deeper towards patience, deeper towards an understanding of seasonality, and like, look, if we all got our magic genie again, right? Like I keep laughing about the shithead stuff, right? Imagine if your 3 genie wishes that you had when you were whatever 15 years ago came true, right? What would you have? A Lamborghini, a boyfriend, and a mansion? You know what I mean? It's like it's probably stuff that wouldn't serve anybody too well today. I gotta land the plane in like 5 minutes because I gotta see someone a little after 2. But
That's
wow,
fine.
what a good one today, huh? I mean, we could just go for hours.
Yeah, I feel like let's pull a closing word.
Yeah, let's get a card. I love it.
Do we want a card? Hold on.
Yeah, let's get a card. I love a card.
Okay. Where's my deck that I want to use? Okay. Do I have the book for it right here?
I wish you could see my shirt, by the way. It has like parakeets.
Parakeets?
Yeah, it's like filled with parakeets, but it's kind of like subtle.
Oh, I had 2 parakeets when I was a kid. A yellow and green, and a blue one. The blue one was my favorite, and I named them Dumb and Dumber. And one day, my dad let them out because he would often let them out to like fly around the house. And my pet Rottweiler killed.
Oh shit.
So every time someone says parakeet, I always remember I walked in the door. My dad was like, Caesar killed Dumber. He's like, I came. He's like, I came. I thought he had a toy, and it was your parakeet.
Oh, Caesar.
I love that dog, though. I forgave him.
Oh, Caesar.
He was just doing what Caesars do, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm really big into alligators, and this guy trains alligators. Gator Boys Chris is his Instagram.
You see my gator head right there?
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah. But he he always does these lives with gators, and people are always like, oh, one day you're gonna. He's like, yeah, dude, like, fucking, I understand that to them I am food. Like, I don't have it twisted that these gators see me as like a special wizard, because gators are just gonna do what gators do. And if I present myself as food, they're going to try to eat me. And the reason that you see me here flexing is because I've been doing this for 30 years and I know how to present myself as not food.
Listen.
Oh, Caesar.
Listen.
Caesar.
I had that hard lesson in New Orleans when I went 2020. As soon as I got on the boat for the Gator tour, the man was like, I'm going to need you to move away from the rail and them things jump. And I was just like, I love them so much.
Yo, we had the same guy. I know that's part of his show.
Well, that man, I mean, he's no longer considered food. Like, he gets real close to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he sets the boat. He goes, like, pulls us in close. He's like, you know, they can come on in the boat anytime they want, right?
Oh my God. So funny enough, not surprising, the card that I pulled, and I'm reading from the New Orleans Oracle deck by Fatima Mboj. I
Okay.
pulled the gratitude card.
Oh, cool. Love it.
So gratitude, second line. Second line parades are a staple of New Orleans culture. The uplifting music and dance signify prevailing circumstances through celebration.
Yep.
Whether in celebration of marriage, death, or just the good times in between, second line parades always emphasize leaning on gratitude and appreciation because all is never lost. This card signifies that it's time for you to remember to celebrate. Sometimes looking at the big picture and all of the steps between the beginning and the end can make it seem like you're on an overwhelmingly endless journey. Giving yourself moments to enjoy any accomplishment, even if it's just the fact that you're still trying, is reason enough to celebrate. The more that you tap into gratitude and appreciation, the sooner you will see things moving more quickly in your desired direction. Feel the music and life and dance a little. You're on your way and you've always been. Is that not the perfect card?
It's your season soon.
It's your season, so keep celebrating till then.
Keep
That's like what I said.
celebrating.
That's what I
All
said.
right.
Keep vision boarding and putting out what you want. Keep celebrating yourself, celebrating the things before they've come, and enjoy life until then.
All right. T,
Thank
what
you.
a pleasure, right? Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone,
everybody,
for
for
watching.
coming in.
Thank you, Trapwitch, for having me. What a fun time this was. I hope everyone got whatever you needed to get out of it.
Absolutely. Have a blessed day.
All right.
Bye.
Peace out, y'all. Have a good one.